Hello, and welcome to the very first housekeeping segment on the MVC podcast network with me, Matt. Before I get into describing today's episode with Nick and I first want to talk about a new idea MVC will be trying in the next future episodes. It is the implementation of duocast and singlecast episodes. What is duocast and singlecast, you may ask? Well, you may intuit what I mean, but let me explain it to you so you can fully understand our intention behind this idea. Duocast will be episodes where only two hosts will talk about a specific topic or interview a guest. Singlecast will be the same concept, but will only be with one host. You may now ask why implementing these two ideas will be beneficial. Well, the reason MVC was implemented in the first place was to make a platform where interesting and enjoyable ideas and conversations can be expressed. We feel, as a team, that by implementing both duocast and singlecast episodes, our initial goal will be amplified and we will also be able to springboard more conversations and guests onto the MVC podcast network for our viewers' liking. Now, today's episode is about Nick and I talking about the issues of power structures, specifically in today's age with the exponential growth in technology and abstract warfare. A great example of abstract warfare can be seen as tariff wars and other economic disputes. In this episode, we will dive into talking about politics and the issues within this system of selective pressures. For example, how ethics and morality is thrown out of the window when certain politicians get high enough in the ladder of power and only begin to carry about their next election term. We will also talk about big corporations like Google, Amazon, and others that have begun to only care about their company's growth, completely disregarding consumers' quality of life and ability to decide on their own and have their own opinions. Lastly, we will discuss nation-state relationships and how the idea of warfare will continue to go towards the abstract, like hacking and cyber tactics, as tech and information continues to grow, leaving the physical warfare and nuclear warfare obsolete in the coming years. These ideas I just summarized are not in any particular order and will be discussed in this episode. I hope you enjoy.
Nick and Matt duo cast, and the question that Matt just answered on his behalf was the idea of crises increasing exponentially in the last couple hundred years. So just to lay out kind of the map and what I was saying right before, once the 1900s hit and we had a huge waves of industrialization, we had, World War I, we had the Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, we have the pandemic now, and in between you could find many other, with the financial crisis, right? And so, to Matt's point, is he believes that there's going to be less war, and there's going to be other types of conflicts, right? More on the technological side, which I definitely agree with.
Can I explain why there'll be less physical war?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so World War II, the reason why it ended is because of the atomic bomb. So we unlocked the secret of the nucleus, or the nuclei of uranium, is pretty much what it was. But so with that yields great power. I mean, it can decimate civilizations. So if you have countries that hold these nukes and they can just end civilization, you're not gonna want to do that. If say Trump bashes Kim Jong-un and they both have nukes, Kim Jong-un's not going to want to nuke the U.S. because then Trump's just going to nuke North Korea, and both of those countries go away. And so then you have almost like a boundary to where that you can have conflict, but you can't get past the nukes boundary, because then civilization erodes. So then it's almost like a fence to pretty much stop conflict, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I can tell, no matter how crazy a leader is, I don't believe, I can believe that they wouldn't want nuclear destruction. I don't even think that could be on the platform of things to do in a conflict scenario, because like you said, most countries these days that have enough influence and power that you would have a conflict with. Mm-hmm. For example, if you're being the U.S., if we continue with that theme, they all have nuclear warheads, and like you said, which is actually really fascinating, like there is like a fence on like how far things can go, because if we do just decide, okay, let's nuke each other, like you said, those two countries don't exist anymore, and like as a person, as a leader, you're not trying to destroy your own country, like you still, like you're just trying to make yourself better, and so that's why I think the new, like going off what you said, the new wave of conflict is going to be technological hacking, but also what I think is going to be very economical. Economics focused, because like for example, we had all the trade war between U.S. and China. I think that was just the beginning. Like we're taxing Europe already just for example, like Boeing versus Airbus, right? Those are the two biggest plane manufacturers in the world, and they're fighting for market share. And obviously, the U.S. wants its U.S. manufacturer Boeing, like huge company, to take global market share. But then the EU and Europe are looking for Airbus. They want Airbus to take it. So we're like taxing each other just on planes. Like it seems silly, but that's something that's happening. And that could grow. So for example, like if you ever have a conflict, which we've seen in the past, like it's a way to like basically jab at them and take them down from the inside. And people don't, oh, it's just another tariff, just another trade war. It's not that big of a deal. But from a country perspective, like especially if the U.S., for example, like taxes oil on like Saudi Arabia, like if we have conflict with Saudi Arabia, like that's 70% of Saudi Arabia's GDP is oil, like oil sales. So if we like eliminated and told all our allied countries, which that's what we do, that's how we influence them. We're like, hey, you guys can't buy this oil anymore, or we're not allies, and which seems kind of like a big bully move, which it is. That's just how the U.S. operates. Speak softly and carry a big stick. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, but I think that's the new front of like conflict.
It's interesting to me how there was like almost a transition phase from handling conflict in the real and handling conflict in the abstract. So what I mean by that is like handling conflict in reality, as in like I'm conversing with you in person, or like I'm sending my troops to your country to solve an issue, like pretty much just going to war, and then we transition to the abstract where we go into economic theory and try to put tariffs on China, or like we're trying to get gains where it's actually not in the real world, or we do like a hack. We try hacking like a country, like that's in the abstract. So like we're like moving to more intellectual like warfare almost, and it's like really interesting how like that's like happening right now.
Yeah, because if you think about like, let's put ourselves in like the position of like a world leader, right? Like a prime world leader, somebody who's on like maybe the UN Security Council, like very important country. If you're in that position, like obviously you have a lot of power, a lot of economic you have a lot of economic wealth to work with, but also if you think about like what they're, I'm losing my train of thought right now. I'm trying to think about I just forgot what I was gonna say.
That's fine. Okay, if it comes back to you.
Yeah, wait.
Just come in, but I wanna. Okay, so humanity is going towards, as we said before.
Oh, it came back.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Great job. Okay, so apologies, listeners. That was a little bit brain fart on my end. But what I was trying to say is, if you picture yourself in a very important position, you think about not only what the people think of you that you're leading, but also what others think of you, like in the world. Because that's like, if you think about like reputation goes very, very far.
Yeah.
If you're a well-liked country, people will give you deals on, like trade, but they'll also they'll be more willing to work with you, give you favors, and also be your ally in a point of conflict. So if you think of on a PR basis, like a public relations basis, going to war is like the last thing you want, right? Like the Vietnam War was extremely looked down upon. Everyone was against it. And like you have the wave of the wave of hippies, right? And everyone was like, no, let's just have peace. You know what I mean? Like that war was looked so down upon, and nobody was in favor of it. And even the people fighting it was like, why am I doing this? And they feel like they're just sacrificing their life, And so like that's not what you want. That's horrible for your that's a horrible look for your country, for
Yeah.
your people, and also yourself, because you end up making that decision. But if you do like a trade war, you know, there's some people in the world who didn't even know we put tariffs on China. You know what I mean? Like, there's people who it's important to, like, on the finance economics end, you know, or maybe, like, citizens that are worried about prices going up for, like, for example, like, steel or something.
Yeah.
But, like, there's some people who didn't know about that. And also, if you look about it, like, that wasn't a horrible thing. Like, you could have some arguments that it's a benefit. It's hard to argue that, like, sending troops to, like, a country to, like, take them over, there's less positive arguments for that, right?
Yeah.
And also, like you said, hacking, you know, I can guarantee Russia's probably hacked some countries
Oh yeah. I mean,
in the past 10 years.
they definitely hacked the U.S.
They might
potentially.
They potentially might have hacked the U.S. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it's very easy to be like, we didn't do that, or it was a third-party terrorist organization. They live in Russia, but it wasn't us. We'll try to get them for you. I'm putting quotes up for our listeners since you can't see me. You know, but, like, you know, there's things you can. Whenever a leader, you're thinking of ways to resolve conflict and get your way.
Yeah.
But holding good PR and having an exit plan. Like, being able to back out of it and be like, whoa, I didn't mean to actually do that. You know what I mean? But if you send troops, you start throwing nukes around, throwing bombs around, like, it's very hard to back out of that. You push the button, right?
No, yeah.
So.
And, okay, so you brought up something really interesting. So, like, for example, tariffs, I would say to the average American, they would not really understand what a tariff is or what the importance of a tariff unless they had a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, like, they have a college degree and they go to work, I don't know, in sales, they might know what a tariff is, but they might not actually, like, understand the mechanics of why a tariff is being put on
what
it.
happens after a tariff is in
Yeah,
place.
so, like, there then brings this divide of more educated people versus uneducated people. And when I mean uneducated, I don't mean, like, people who are, like, not smart. I just said they either have a GED, only a GED, or a bachelor's degree, associate's degree. And it's not because that they're not, like, capable of getting something better. It's just maybe their circumstances. So, for example, they're in poverty. Or
maybe it's just, like, their career choice.
Yeah, or a career
it's not
choice, exactly.
necessary.
But like what I'm trying to get at is that these countries, they have so much potential energy, and what I mean by that is that they have so much weight in terms of like their economy, their GDP, their nukes. So, like, the magnitude in which they can create violence, but also then the power over the citizens. So, like, Trump and what he's able to do with the media. So, like, he can stir up a lot of shit with the Democrats, and that actually is good for him because then he can put them towards something else. Like, for example, I don't know, like the riots. Those are really bad, but he, like, the stuff he tweets, he puts people towards those things when he's actually, like, going off and doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, with the tariffs, so this isn't true, but hypothetically, if he made a tweet that made people think about the riots, and then he's actually trying to increase more tariffs for China, people aren't going to pay attention to that. They're going to pay attention to the riots. So then, like, this is warfare in terms of the abstract that is manipulation, purely, like, psychological rather than, like, conventional, like, I don't know, warfare tactics, like, I don't know, just, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this transition to controlling people
Mm-hmm.
rather than like physically, like, fighting people. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and that's-
I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, you bring up a great point. I think what's interesting to me is, I think the way people are leading countries and acting is going the wrong way.
Mhm.
I think, honestly, like, what you should be is a leader. You know, obviously, a leader's defined in many different ways, but I think everyone has somewhat of there's, like, a sphere of ideas of what a leader should be.
Yeah.
And I think, like, everyone would have some intersection of those ideas, right? But I think, like you said, we're not leading. It's more like controlling, and it's more manipulation. Because if you think about, like, let's say, like, what if everyone, you know, obviously this has never happened, okay? Because there's too many conflicting ideas in the U.S. But let's say there was one leader that got 100% of the votes. Like, everyone was for him, for, like, maybe his charisma, like, other things. Like, he has a great platform. Like, people know he's going to do well, and he also has, like, the perfect happy medium. Like, obviously you can't you can't. It'd be difficult because you can't please everybody. But what if people could compromise?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what if you had the perfect middle ground? Sounds crazy, but then people would actually follow him. You know, people would actually believe in what he's doing and be willing to help push the country further. But like, you know, for example, like what you're bringing up with the current situation, like with Trump and the media, like that's complete control and manipulation. Like, you know, whether you disagree or agree with that, you can just see that, you know, the whole fake news thing that was going around, you know, early, and it still goes around now, is a way to basically rule out anything that would hurt you and only focus on what's good, right? So, for example, anything that comes to bash Trump, or like, you know, like you said, he's pointing people's attention in different ways. And if something comes back, he just says, "Hey, that's fake news. Like, that's not real," right? Mm. And yeah, like you could argue like we have the facts, you know, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like it's just kind of like a, you know, glass house argument almost. It's just like you can't do anything about it. Like at the end of the day, yeah, if he says fake news, like you could fight it, but there's nothing you can really do. And so, you know, I think we gotta somehow. I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
I'm not a world leader, but we need to change the course of like how our country's going. And I don't know who that's gonna be, and I can guarantee it's not gonna be. It might not even be in our lifetime. But we need somebody to step in and be like, okay, man, like let's not have politicians be about, you know, saying fluffy things you know, fluffy things, having a platform that actually isn't really a platform. You know, I'd say more it's a waterbed. It's very flowy, not supported at all, right? Like, so I think we need somebody that will actually, whatever they say is what they actually will do. And try to focus less on manipulation and actually having people like follow you, like be an actual leader, be what, you know, be what our forefathers brought you into be, you know?
So this now gets us into something even more interesting. So what you're pretty much talking about, like manipulation, what's happening right now. So we live in a world right now, Nick, where a lot of people may not notice this right now, but you can barely trust the media in anything. Fox News, CNN, they're propaganda machines for the DNC and the GOP. And there's other things too. The New York Times, they're biased. Like all these institutions that give us our information, they have their own narratives that they employ, because the people that invest in those companies, like the really big people up there, they want to make more money. So whatever narrative is then in line with making more money, they're gonna roll that story or whatever. So then like it becomes like this whole like almost like a snowball effect of disinformation, like complete biased like sense making or stories, to where you get this like soup of what the fuck is going on. I can't make sense of all this. It's just a jumble of like random shit.
Right.
And like it's making people crazy. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it's also building up these leaders into giving them more power, because like if you have your citizens that can't make sense of anything, that means you have so much more ability to manipulate them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So then, whenever you're talking about, say, like one central person becoming like the next phase into pretty much unraveling this fuck up of like leadership,
yeah,
it's hard for me to see that actually happening if the system itself has a tumor that's continuing to grow. Yeah. Because like if you're saying like one person can fix this, well, no, you can't cure cancer with one chemo treatment. Like you need to do more than that.
Yeah, I'm saying like I'd say it's like an avalanche effect.
Yeah.
Like right now we're climbing a mountain. Okay, we're climbing a mountain right now. We're gonna hit a peak. There's gonna be a peak at some point. Okay. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not gonna be one person who changes everything for the better. It's not like we're gonna have an Avatar. Okay, we're not gonna have an Aang. You know, for the U.S. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. But that's not going to happen. What we need is somebody to get the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. Okay, you need somebody to get us over that hump, so then we can just start barreling down. You know, and downward in this scenario is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. So we're headed towards, you know, prosperity, less manipulation. You know, like a system, a political system you can actually believe in, right? Yeah. And so that's why I just think, somebody needs to step up. Because, like, let's be honest, from people I've talked to, nobody actually, there's a lot of people who wouldn't want to be president, because it's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. Like, you got to focus on many moving parts. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I do sympathize with that, but there's a lot of people that you'd be like, wow, like,
they'd be a good leader.
You're like, you have a lot of unique creative ideas, like, you should run for president. No, like, no, I wouldn't want to do that for XYZ reasons. And that's why I think there's a lot of people in the dark, people don't really know them, but mm-hmm. they could be phenomenal phenomenal leaders, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, what our system brings out. Our system, like, not to bash any of the past presidents, there's been some really good ones, but there's also been some lunatics, right? There's been some people who didn't really think through their decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think our system needs to stop attracting those people. And it's almost, it might be too easy. Maybe we're making it too easy to get in. To have a person who was a Hollywood star, who has his own reality TV show, Donald Trump. Like, he's a reality TV show host, and now he's our president. We have Kanye West, who's a music artist, makes great music. He should not be leading a country, but obviously he dropped out. But for him to even, like, be able to get on ballots in states is, like, that baffles me. And so I think we need to somehow change that.
So this brings up the question of like, why is that happening? And, like, going with the Trump example, people say what you want about the man. If he's, like, delusional, if he's not in the right mind, like, if he doesn't understand, like, how to be president, the dude is a genius. But he's a genius of manipulation and also, like, playing a role. I mean, like, he was on a TV show. He's a businessman. He understands people's behavior and also how to pretty much sway people to make certain decisions that align with what he wants to do. And I mean, that's pretty much what becoming president is. Because, like, that's what a leader is. But it's very easy whenever you have a system that allows for these, like, power structures to come into play to take the negative stigma of being a leader. So, like, manipulation, coercion, deceptiveness, and take that and put it in there rather than, like, having, like, a really open-minded leader that's strong-willed but doesn't have a strong ego. Mm-hmm. So, like, but, like, the issue, though, is that it's not about the people, like, running for president. It's about the system itself. And, like, to fix the system itself, you need more than one person. And you, like, so, like, you can put one person in there and they might have strong views and, like, have a good platform at first, but they're gonna get eaten up by the corrupted people right away because it's one versus many. And, like, it's really hard to battle that. But I mean, you could also say that, well, that person will have a strong cabinet. But I mean, to pass bills, to pass, like, types of laws or whatever you're trying to do, you have to meet those people's needs as well. You have to meet a middle ground, and by the time you're doing that, your ethics will probably transfer into their ethics because you're always having to meet their needs because there's so many more of them. Mm-hmm. So then, like, it just becomes, like, this really hard task to pretty much unravel the shit that's, like, in our system. Mm-hmm. Like how would you even go about doing that? You know what I mean? Like, it's so complex.
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I know something that I've been thinking about for a little while, which, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this, so maybe you can correct me or throw me some loops here, but the whole thing about, like, political parties is interesting to me. Because, like, if you think about how many conflicts and also disagreements we've had just because you're wearing a red shirt and I'm wearing a blue shirt, like, I think that's, like, completely idiotic. Like, obviously political parties are like basically a creation and a factor of, like, our early history as a country. And, like, obviously that's how the system is set up, but, I think there's people there that, okay, maybe they sign up Democratic or Republican and that's who they identify with, but they vote either sides. And I think the people have the will to do that, to see through these kind of blurry lines, and also, like, like you said, on the manipulation aspect, it's like people try to say, like, hey, you're part of our party, don't you dare try to vote for somebody else. But, like, if you can get through all that noise, and this is also why I think voting is extremely important, and that's why I also think, like, obviously we were talking about, to not being manipulated. It's always better if you've gone through like a lot of education. You can kind of identify enough self-thought. But I think you don't even have to go through high school to be able to do that. Just to be able to just take time, right? I wish people, including myself, I'm at fault for this, and which I've been starting to do, is to actually start reading people's platforms, people's websites.
Yeah.
Like, and it, obviously it's really tedious, and you can't do this for every senator, but since I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be a working class citizen soon, right? I'm gonna have not a lot, but I will have a certain percentage of influence on how this country performs in the next 50 years, right? And so I think, a lot of countries are, a lot of like companies and also like leaders have tried to be like, hey, get out there and vote, like it's very important, and everyone's just like, they just brush it off. They're like, yeah, of course, that's my right. But I don't think people are actually like thinking about, their decision. I think people, like, for example, are just saying, let me get this out of the way and just vote for a blue or red, you know what I mean? Versus voting for an actual human being, an actual person who's going to be leading you and making decisions, for you in the future. So
I completely agree with everything you just said. And I think what a lot of people forget is that we're all part of the same country. I mean, what the real, operating function of what we're trying to do is make our country better. It's not about, oh, I associate with the right, oh, I associate with the left. I mean, yeah, that's where you can have, opinions that mold with yours. But, I feel like a lot of people, see the left and right as two different, countries, or, two different, camps of thought. And, I really think that that's not really what it was meant to be in the first place. It's molded into that because, they're, I'm going to say it again, these power structures it's easier to take control of people and have them what you want to do if you have one centralized system. So for example, the left, where the DNC can manipulate the people into doing random shit. So the right likes to say Antifa is associated with the DNC, and what they're doing is pretty much to create violence and these riots and whatever to pretty much take away from what's happening with Trump and everything. I don't know. I guess that's an example, but what I'm trying to get at is that I just feel like these two camps are polarizing our nation rather than bring us together. So by doing that, it creates more conflict, more violence, more negative things happening with us, rather than actually producing constructive growth and positive things for our nation. I don't think it's really good, and I don't really know how to solve that. I mean, you could say we create a third party that has the same magnitude as the left, or that has the same magnitude as the Republicans and the Democrats, but then I feel the same thing can happen. So then there's even more conflict. So I think what people really need to kind of wake up to do is just be hey, I'm a Democrat, but it doesn't really matter. That doesn't hold me to what I actually think. I should try and find out what I actually believe in, rather than saying, oh, I only align with these views. These are the only things I can think about. And this gets back to what you were saying with more educated people, just having independent thought and actually trying to understand things by yourself first, rather than trying to listen to what others say and then say, oh yeah, that's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think maybe just to kind of wrap up here, because we've been talking about this for a little while now, but I think just to wrap up and kind of summarize all our thoughts, is I think two main things, actually three main things, is the issue here is a corrupted power structure. Okay, so this needs to be solved. Obviously, it's more of an abstract idea, and so it's hard to put your finger on it. It's not solving world hunger or something. It's okay, you have no more hungry people, we're chilling, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a symbolization of the whole conflict there, but like a corrupted power structure is abstract, and you don't realize it unless you actually think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You actually put the puzzle pieces together. Because, for example, if you just take snapshots of different points in time, you'd be like, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But if you string it all together, you're like, wait, something's up here, right? And so we have an abstract power structure where corruption, manipulation is at hold, okay, is in front of us right now. We also have the polarization of our country kind of leading to that. And I think, just to jump here and throw in my own thoughts is, you need to have a red team. Okay, you need to have somebody who's going to say, I agree with that, but maybe you should look at it this way, right? You need some sort of person to be there and bring up the risks to the situation. So you need to have that. And that's one of the positives of political parties and that's why they were created in general, so you don't have groupthink. You don't have everyone think of the same thing and just be like, yeah, let's go, let's do that, But then, we look at it 20 years in the future and we look back, we're like, okay, why did we ever do that? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of instances that in our history. So you need the red team, you need the people to, bounce ideas off each other and also be there to be, contradicting.
Yeah.
But I think it takes it too far where it's not that. What I just explained with the red team and the contradiction is self-thought. And I think that's the overarching thing that we keep coming to, is that you need people to be able to independently think and then bring up those ideas in kind of a, well-rounded, educated way, not a manipulative way, not a way where it's kind of a flaky argument, where it's like it's hard. Like, you want solid arguments and ideas that can be contradicted, because that makes our country better.
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of what we've kind of stumbled upon.
And kind of adding to, we can talk about this another time, but like we really focus on politics, and it's a weight it has on humanity, specifically the U.S. But for probably like another conversation, and we kind of alluded to this earlier with social media, kind of their influence on us, because politics uses social media as like a catalyst to speed up its output or input into our influence, and then we are the output to where like what's able to happen. And like when it comes to like opinions and what we think, social media is another huge thing in terms of what like the information we get and then the ideas we obtain from that information. But yeah, that's pretty much just what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think that's great. So very, very interesting and developing topic. This is the first episode of the Matt and Nick duo cast series here at MVC. So we hope you enjoyed that, and we hope to pump out another podcast with you with the full crew coming back next year. So thank you for listening, and take care.